So thank you very much for joining us today. Yeah, obviously you've been in e-commerce for 20 years, so like you have so much knowledge when it comes to
Oh.
that. And I'd love to chat with you about like those secrets to success because we had a little bit chat obviously a few months ago already, and I can see on your account how much knowledge you're sharing with everyone, and a lot of my clients that are at the beginning stages or just want to like ramp up their performance, like so happy to be able to send them to you before they're ready to go to the next step, which is then e-commerce and just like flooding traffic to their website. But yeah, please introduce yourself. I would love to have a little bit of an overview of like, again, for everyone, what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Lisa Byrne. I'm an e-commerce marketing mentor for women, and I help those women who are in the early stages of growing their e-commerce business, so their product-based business or their online store, helping them focus on the right things so they don't do all the things. And I'm big on, and when I say things, I mean marketing and growth and systems and even down to things like hiring and websites. So I help them focus on what I refer to as the foundations. And that's like knowing your customer, your message, your offer, your website, your branding, your story. And then once those things are solid, we look at things like obviously planning out your year, implementing, I'm big on organic marketing. So things like email marketing, social media, video, I bang on about a lot. But also just being able to articulate your message with your audience and get in front of your audience. So that's kind of a bit of a nutshell on what I do. And my background, not 20 years in e-commerce specifically, but 20 years, over 20 years now in marketing. So yeah, I'm ancient in the world of Instagram. But
You've seen a lot.
yeah, I yes, I guess so.
Love that. So yeah, it's so important, as you mentioned before, of like having those foundations set up, because with a lot of people, obviously, I'm focusing on the e-commerce side of things of like advertising. So a lot of people that have the initial conversation with are like, well, just send traffic to me. It's gonna be fine. But that's not the case. So that's why so many times I'm like, well, at this stage, I think it's a really good idea for you to have a chat with Lisa to really figure out the foundations of where you are with your business. And then once you're ready and once you're happy to what you have, we can always have another chat. But you mentioned obviously before, like the focus is so important. What do you mean with like the focus is the secret weapon?
Yeah, so focus is a muscle that needs to be built, I guess. It's not something that comes easily or naturally to many of the business owners I speak to and many service providers as well. So focus is really the superpower, because without focus, we are watering down our efforts. So if we're focusing on if we're looking at 10 different things and working on 10 different projects or traffic driving strategies, we're really watering down our efforts. But if you think about, if you're just focusing on 1 to 2 things at any given time in those early years, and even when you are scaling, focusing on 1 to 2 to 3 traffic driving and sales driving marketing strategies, you're going to get better at it. You're going to get more return on investment from it. You'll be spending less time on your marketing. So focus really is being able to discern what you should be spending your time on and what you shouldn't be. And in the early years, that is so important because you're still figuring out your message. You're still figuring out who your customer is. You're still refining your products. You're still working on your website. So there's so many unknowns in those early years that focus becomes incredibly important. And it's hard to do that on your own. You do need some support to find your focus. I guess the number one thing business owners say when I talk to them on the phone is, I don't know what to focus on next. I feel like I'm doing everything and nothing's really working. I've wasted money on the wrong things. I don't know where to focus. So that's kind of the first place I think many business owners who are feeling overwhelmed should start. What is working, what isn't, and then focusing on the things that you can change and grow and the things that you can sort of really double down on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned, and also also with the advertising side of things, what I can see always of like from my side is that, well, when they're trying to do all the channels at once, it's like you can't really tell, especially now with the iOS 14 changes, what is actually driving the sales and what is actually getting you to the next level. That's why I'm also like, okay, let's focus on one thing first. If that one is fine, let's go to the next one. Or like a lot of people as well, like so excited of like, okay, I can promote everything at once. It's amazing. But it's again, you're like, well, let's just focus on one thing. And if that works, we have the foundation done, then let's go to the next one. But yes, that's definitely true. And with the mention with like the superpowers, what do you mean then with the, like, obviously there are so many people like overwhelmed with like 20 things at once. In order to like focus on the right thing, do you have like a putting them together like to-do list, or helping them figure out like the actual tasks that they need to do next, or what specifically are you helping them people with?
Yeah, so the first thing that we do is we take a look under the hood of their business. And I always start with the sales and marketing data. And there is a lot of different, and that sounds scary to some people. And I was speaking to a whole bunch of women last night, my students in my course, and quite a few of them had not even looked at their Shopify analytics. And, that's okay, because it can be a bit scary. But we're going to start there, and we're going to what traffic we're getting, where that traffic is coming from, what are they buying, when are they buying, how much are they buying at any given time, so the average order value. And there we can understand the basics of what's working and what isn't. And we're also going to be looking at our marketing, so on our social media channels and on our email campaigns, and what else are we looking at? Our video. So what content is getting cut through? And we're going to figure out a lot about the audience, like what they respond to, what messages kind of they don't care about, what they're massively passionate about. What are their pain points is the big one as well. Understanding your customer is also part of that sales and marketing data analysis. So that's kind of where we focus first.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to say, and then we move on to refining, excuse me, their messaging. So once we've got the data, that's where we're going to look at, okay, so what can we change and evolve? What isn't connecting? What isn't clear? Clarity is the next big superpower. So clarity of message, and I'm sure you see this a lot, and it's an easy mistake to make. I know when I first launched my business, my message was very unclear, and sometimes it takes an outsider to look at your website or look at your socials, or even just look at your brand or your offering and go, okay, this doesn't make sense. Or if I didn't know anything about your business, I couldn't actually understand that you're actually selling A, B, and C. So yeah, it's the simple things I find, but when you're in the thick of it, it's really hard to see, and that's okay. So you just got to find the right support and get an extra pair of eyes on the business.
Absolutely. That's why I think having business mentors or having that guidance outside is so important. Even obviously I have it with my business mentor, who is amazing, as well as even my VA, who is also doing an amazing job. Thank you very much, Claire. She's always going messaging that I have in the social media or website, and she's well, I don't really understand it, because I'm so into the material, and I sometimes need someone to tell me, okay, cool, back off, just do it very simple, because we really need to get the message across. So I think everyone needs that.
Yes. And sometimes I find we overcomplicate things, because if things do feel simple, we kind of hang on a second, that's too simple. I've got to make it more sophisticated. Yeah. And actually the simpler the better, because you think about how much time you've got to communicate your message with someone who's just watched one of your stories, or who has, maybe looked at your Facebook ad. It is seconds. So if you don't have a clear message and be able to articulate that on different platforms, it's very hard to get them to your website, harder to get them to add anything to cart. So yeah, the clearer you can get on pain points, your message, like what it is you sell, who it's for, the problem it addresses, and the solution it provides. That's kind of what I wrap up into what I call the offer. And then the message is the customer facing. So what your website says about you.
Yeah.
And then how that goes across all the other channels.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, like just to be clear, like all the messages just need to be like working together and like all the different channels. So that's like, and I also love that you're focusing so much on organic traffic, because that is such an important factor as well for any kind of paid advertising. If you have that asset of following base engagement and so on, that it's only going to benefit you moving forward for any kind of like strategies that you're doing. So I always, like as Mel mentioned, to every kind of client, make sure you have that organic following base and that loyal customer that is actually really like just happy for you. And yeah, that's definitely so important.
Yes. And it's not to be underestimated in terms of that organic following. It's hard in the first years. It is hard to find that your people and your community and get them rallying behind you. But the more you can step out of your fear, and this is what I see a lot with female business owners, is that they're stuck in, well, I've tried that and that didn't work, or I did a reel and nobody watched, or nobody wants to hear from me, or I've tried email, but I think I'm spamming them. Like all these stories that we're telling ourselves is getting in the way of actually finding that organic traffic and organic community. And those people are going to be your champions. And you need as many of those champions before you look at Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Because as you say, you need that organic traffic. You can test your messages and your website and your products with that organic traffic before you start paying to test it.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously with paid, you can fast track certain things, but obviously it's really to have that foundation set up with like you know what you're selling and you have that tribe already, and it's basically just helping you. Even like if you like a lot of things that really that work really well with paid is taking some of your organic posts for the top of the funnel and just basically just spreading your word, because you already have that engagement, those comments, those shares, and people see that and they're like, well, this is a legit company and I want to be part of this tribe. And it's so important to have that. And then you can always just combine it with paid advertising and just make it fly.
Yeah, that is true. And I've noticed those ads myself where I see like it looks like an organic piece of content and it's got 50 comments underneath it. And I'm like, oh, this must be a pretty good product. Click.
Exactly.
Then I'm in their funnel. They're going to get me. And they usually do.
Because we love shopping.
We do love shopping too much. So we're in the best business for it, really. So they can work hand in hand. Absolutely. And it works. Facebook ads do work. And when they work, they go great. But I guess what I like to make sure that people understand is that in the early years, you don't have to start there. And I still, Facebook ads is still sort of something that I guess people default to at the start, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah, definitely. I see a big difference of like the success of clients coming through that have an organic following base already compared to like that have 0 or like only like 50. Whereas like, because a lot of people, especially myself, I'm like, when I'm like seeing a product that I like, I'm going on their social media. I'm gonna check like how they present themselves. How are they engaging with the customer? Are they nice to people? Are they like, what is their engagement? If they're like super loving and kind of like, well, I love this tribe, I want to be part of it. If I don't, like, well, that's not my kind of vibe. And that's definitely recommend as well for any kind of.
Yes, just conversation. I say to my students, think of conversation equals conversions, whether it's happening in your DMs, whether you're replying to comments, whether you're replying on your own profile or on other people's profiles. So people that may look like your customer, all those conversations, they mean something and they have value. So even if you can schedule in 15 minutes a day at the start of your business journey, and this is something that you can then outsource later on when you've got a bit of cash to do that, but 15 minutes a day just to have conversations and engage on social, if that's where your audience is, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
You mentioned that having the customer as at the center of your business. What exactly do you mean that?
Yes. So, there is businesses that um, exist to sell stuff, and then there's businesses that exist to serve
Help.
their community,
Yeah.
to help. Yes, and I definitely play in that area, because it's often led by a pain point that the business owner experienced, or a social impact, that they want to have a better impact in the world, or whatever it is. But the people who serve their customers, I find, have faster, more easier growth, because they're putting their customer at the forefront. So when they're developing products, they're not developing things on a whim, or plucking something out of the air, or looking at a trend that maybe that they think that they could make money from. They're thinking about their customer and going, okay, so if they're using this, let's say, I don't know, a yoga mat, what else is this person going to be using in their life or in their practice, or what are they passionate about? So developing products, by keeping your customer at the forefront, is one thing, but then also, just how you market yourself. So how do you think your customer wants to be spoken to, or how do they want to feel? And putting that into all your touch points. So your email marketing, for example, if you think your customer's a busy mum, or that's just frazzled and doesn't have time for reading long emails, then just keep it light and talk to them. They're like they're your friend, and know who they are and what's going on in their life. So it sounds simple, but you'd be surprised how many brands, big ones included, don't do this, and their marketing doesn't necessarily hit the mark.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Also, I think with that comes also in play with organic, with the social media presence. A lot of people think that, well, I have to be like this in order to be taken seriously. I have to act a certain way. I'm like, I was shit scared of like being on
Mm.
social media and showing my face and actually being me, because I'm like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
can't. This, like, why, like, who would want that? But actually, I think if you like, once you own it and you like, well, I'm gonna swear on my Instagram lives, I'm gonna do it because that's me. I'm a little bit sassy,
That's it.
that's me.
Yeah.
And if you like that, then you're the perfect person I want to work with. And if you don't, well, then we might be not the best fit anyway. And if you attract the
Yeah.
clients that you think are the right clients, those are usually the ones that are like asking for refunds, having all those troubles. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
be your authentic self, and as you mentioned before, do that in your messaging that you want to have. If you don't think that long emails is the right thing for you, then just don't do it. Go do something like quick and easy, just like you mentioned before. I love that, of like actually
Yeah.
be yourself that you want to do.
Yeah, and I often kind of talk about finding the common ground. So, you know, I'm sure you've heard it before, like people buy from people, not from brands. And so as a person, the human in your business, especially when you're small or a solopreneur, when you literally are the business, what is that common ground that you share with your audience? Think about beliefs and values, your personal beliefs and values, but the also that shared beliefs and value system that you might have with your community. Because everything's becoming saturated now. So you're selling yoga mats, or you're selling skin care. Um, you know, when you compare them on, side by side, there's not much difference between them, but there's so many differences in the people and in the communities. There's different layers of culture and, you know, beliefs and values and needs and wants and lifestyle. So that's what you've got to connect with your customer on. It's not necessarily about, women 25 to 45. It's like, no, women who, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but, trying to go plastic free in their household, and are trying to juggle motherhood and working at the same time. So that kind of common ground.
Yeah, love that. I tend to like attract a lot of clients that are having that bigger purpose, or like having those really nice values of like either just sharing love or just sharing something like really good to the community. And I'm like, well, I love that. And it's just like, it's so funny what kind of people you're attracting. And it's like, I love that, because then every day is fun because you're helping the people that you actually love to help.
That's right. And people can feel that, and the right people will be attracted to you because you're standing out by standing for something, because there's
Yeah.
a million brands out there are just, whack a logo on something and away you go. But when you stand for something and you're loud about it and it connects with your audience, that's the biggest thing. It's connecting with your audience. Then yeah, you'll see growth faster.
Awesome. Is there anything, like, obviously it's such a big topic, and I still want to keep it a little bit short and concise for people that want to rewatch it. Is there anything in particular that you want to share that we haven't covered yet?
Oh, I don't think so. I did write some notes, but I think we've covered it off. Yeah, just keep going if you're in those early days, and seek support. Some of the most successful e-commerce business founders have sought support and feedback and mentors and guidance. We can't do it all on our own, and we aren't the experts in everything. So figure out what's stopping you and seek the right support for that. And do your due diligence, ask a lot of questions, and yeah,
Love that.
it.
Get people in touch with you. How can you help different people? You mentioned courses before, but what is the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm always on Instagram, so come say hi at Instagram, or my website is lisabyrne.com.au. That's Byrne. And yeah, so I've got a course which is just closed, Ecom Grow Strong. That's a 10-week group coaching program, and that'll open up again next year. But you can book 90-minute sessions with me. I've got a 90-day VIP intensive where I get like in your business with you. And a couple of other things too, but I'll be happy to book a chat with anyone who's interested.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa. And I'm looking forward to our next catch up, hopefully soon.
Yeah, thank you, Eva. See you later.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
Bye. Bye.